All right, so let's pick up where we were at last class when I didn't know what day it was. I just joined the club, right? And one thing we decided is that we have our JSON stuff working out pretty well here. This all looks fine and dandy, but you know what? If we have to build a pretty big map like this by hand, while it's possible, it's going to be a little tedious. And now it's kind of like, hey, do I want to program or do I want to write JSON? They both kind of suck. We want to now have, I think we left our thing in a state where if I run this, we can see we can go to the north. I can go to the north. I can go to the south. I only have a couple of rooms in mind, right? Yeah. So we see that we have that stuff in there, and I can kill my rat and all that stuff. So at this point, I can move around in my environment. But if I want to build a bigger map, what might be cool is if I'm in this room, let's say I travel to the north, and I'm in this room that only has an exit to the south. Maybe I could type in something like create. And what create would do is it would do something similar to what we were doing last class, where we kind of quiz me to enter a title, enter a description, tell me where it goes for the room. And then if I want to create an exit to that room, so effectively it'll let me say, I want to create a room further to the north called room 3, something like that. So it allows me to build out my, my map by walking through the map. Now, that's going to be all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, we want to be able to write that back to JSON so that we can read in that updated map next time. So if we kind of draw a picture of what we're going for here, we have our, when I go too high up, it scrolls down on me. There we go. All right. So we have our game. So that's the game we're actually playing. The game puts together the map through our map builder. The map builder reads from a file called map.json, let's say. And now we're also, the current state of things is this, is the human being we'll put us in green. The human being creates this map.json file. And once we have this right, then we run this program over here, our actual game, who asks the map builder to read in from this file and generate our rooms and exits. All right, so that's the way it works right now, but the human being is the one who has to create their map inside of map.json. Now, what might be nice is if this human being could instead go into the game and update the map through map builder such that they created the map they wanted. We can expand the map during the game. So, keep in mind that the map builder actually generates our map. So while this game is running, if somebody deleted this map.json file, that's not going to be a problem, because we've already read in from that JSON file. This guy has processed it, and we've generated our map of rooms and exits. So now as the human goes through this game and starts updating this map, we're updating the objects that are currently active in the game. We have not changed this file yet. All right, so what I'm saying is maybe what we do is we create a room. It asks us a couple of pieces of information about the room we want to create. And then what it does is it allows us to maybe type enter or press save and press enter. And what that'll do is it'll actually write the current version of this map with all my adjustments I've made to it back over this JSON file. All right. So in order to do that, we need to teach Map Builder to go both directions. Right now, Map Builder knows how to go from JSON to a map, but now we want to be able to go from a map back to JSON. Okay, so let's get that string working first, and then we'll deal with the file IO stuff. So if you remember from the end of class last time, I kind of had us do this thing where we entered in a title, entered in a description, a room ID, then it created a room dictionary out of that, and then we could actually dump that to JSON. So we already have some tools that allow us to take a dictionary and convert it to JSON. Now we want to take that a step further and be able to get a room and convert that to JSON, and an exit and convert that to JSON, and so on and so forth. All right, so what we want to be able to do here, and we can start off by not adding any more rooms, but going into our actual map, and we're going to teach our map, because our map actually holds our collection of rooms. We want to teach this guy how to export itself to JSON. So I'm going to go into our map here, and I'm going to define a function. We're going to call this guy to JSON. And his job is going to be to effectively export this map to a JSON string. So now, if we have this working, the way we would test this is by asking it to export it to JSON. Or I think I just called to JSON, didn't I? To JSON, which will give us a big long JSON string. And then I should be able to copy this from my output of my program, paste it over my map.json, and run my program again, and I should have the same map. That'll tell us that this guy is accurately outputting the correct JSON representing our map. Okay, so let's go back and let's look at what our map looks like. So for our couple of directions, notice that we have destination room IDs. So for direction and a destination, for this, these are our exits that are in there. So this is our collection of exits associated with our variable called exits. So inside here is going to be a bunch of JSON objects for our exits. This is a JSON object for our room. This is our JSON object for our map. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and build this up as a dictionary and then do a dump S on that dictionary. So we know at the top level, if a map is being asked to convert itself to JSON, I need to go ahead and create a dictionary that has a value called map in it, and then an empty list for its value. All right, we're going to start filling that list with stuff, but for right now, it's an empty list. So let's go into our code. So the very first thing I need to do, we're going to call this the output dictionary. And this guy will start off as being map and the empty list. That's my starting point, is a variable called output dictionary that is equal to a dictionary with a single name value pair in it, name being map, current value being an empty list. We are going to append things to that list shortly. All right, what do we want to append to that list? Well, I want to go through all of my rooms and ask each room to give me the JSON version of itself. And that's what I want to append to this list. So for a room in self dot, what do I call this guy? Collection of rooms. Oh. So for each room in my collection of rooms, I want to say output dictionary at bucket map. That's my list. Dot append a room to JSON. So I want to get the JSON version of that room. We haven't written that yet, but we will. All right, so what am I going to add to my dictionary here? I'm going to add the JSON version of each room. So now we need to go and write a to_JSON inside of room. And we could call it whatever we want. We're just naming it to_JSON because that's what it's doing. It's converting it to JSON. All right, so now we are inside of our room for our to_JSON inside of room. We go back and we look at what a room looks like. This is a room. It's a dictionary that has a title, a description, a room ID, and then it has exits, which starts off as an empty list that we will append onto that. So we'll go ahead and build our title, description, and room ID. So we'll call this guy output dictionary is equal to title colon self dot title description colon self dot description room ID colon self dot room ID and then exits will start off as the empty list. So that's my starting point for my output dictionary. It's going to be a dictionary that's going to have this particular room's title, this particular room's description, this particular room's room ID, and then exits is going to start off as an empty list, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill that up. What am I going to fill it up with? I'm going to fill it up with the JSON version of each of my exits. So for an exit in self.list of exits, what do I want to do? I want to say output dictionary at bucket exits dot append. I want to add a new thing to that list. What am I going to append? An exit dot to JSON. All right, so for a room, I'm going to start it off with the pieces of information I know, and then give myself an empty list for exits. I'm going to go through all of my actual exits and ask each one to convert itself to JSON, and I'll append that to my list of exits. Okay. Ultimately here, I'm going to return output dictionary. So once I'm done with this for loop, I'm going to return this guy. So now I need to go to exit. Because if we look back here, what's an exit? An exit is a JSON object that keeps track of a direction and a destination room ID. So we need to go to our exit class. Right here. And we will create a to_JSON for this guy as well. And I'll go ahead and we'll have an output dictionary. Start this guy off, and he's going to have a direction is equal to self.direction and a, let me make sure I name it correctly. Oop. Actually, we should check with our map file. An exit just has a room ID. Okay. So this is a room ID, even though we know it's the destination room ID. Self.room destination ID. we need to make sure that we call our name value pairs correctly. So an exit has direction and it has room ID. And here's my map. We have a direction and we have a room ID. So we need to make sure those variable names match. Okay, so we create our output dictionary. This guy has those two name value pairs. We don't have any list of things to go through, so we'll return output dictionary. So that's the JSON version of our exit. Go back up here to our room. So that's going to do that thing for each of our exits, however many exits are in a room, getting the JSON version of each of those exits and appending it to our list of exits. Ultimately, we'll return that output dictionary. I'll go back down here to my map builder. So this is going to go through every room and append that room's JSON to my output dictionary, and then ultimately I'll return output dictionary. But now I want this guy actually in JSON. Right now it's in dictionary format. So we'll just look at it this way. So if I come down here, we had a quit, right? Yeah, we have a quit command. So after my quit command, I'll go ahead and ask my map to convert itself to JSON. So I'll say print the map to JSON. So if I type quit, here is my map in dictionary format. So notice a map is a collection of rooms, where a room is a title, a description, a room ID, and a list of exits. Here's this exit. So we have a direction and we have a room ID. There's only one thing in that list. Here's our second room, title, description, room ID, and then our list of exits. We only have one exit in there. All right, but that guy currently is a dictionary. He's not in JSON yet. He's in something that looks very, 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 very similar to JSON. So if I were to say print JSON.dumpS, the map.toJSON, now we'll see that, missing a parenthesis. Now we see that I get my actual JSON version, which looks incredibly similar to this guy here, but you can see right off the bat that map is surrounded by double quotes here when it was only in single quotes up here for the dictionary representation. So this is my actual guy that I should be able to copy this, go into my map here. And I know this guy is looks all pretty and stuff right now, but I'll go ahead and just paste that in there and save it. Go back here, run my game again, and my game still works. I can go to the north. I can go to the south. So my output for my map is correctly giving me what this world looks like. I must have flipping between the screens. Let me just make sure I didn't break quit. Yeah, I didn't. Must have been flipping through the screens. I had an empty thing I pressed enter on or something. Okay, now realistically, if we're gonna say the map to JSON, we probably want it to give us actual JSON. So we really want this line to live inside of our map to JSON. Even though all the other guys just returned the dictionary, we'll go ahead and let the maps version of to.json do the final piece where it will return JSON.dump s of output dictionary. So we want this guy to take my output dictionary that I've built up with all my rooms and exits, and we want to dump that to a JSON string. So now to JSON will do that. And there's our final JSON string. Okay. Now, that's all fine and dandy. We've proved that this guy works. I can copy this and go and paste it over my map again. There it is. It's not very nice for a human to read that, but that's okay. We've decided by our picture back here that we don't want to dabble too much in this file if we don't have to. We want this file to be correct. And maybe initially it's just a single room. We could probably pull off a single room, because if we don't have a room to put our player into, then we don't have a way for him to create that first room. We could probably write the code to make that work, but you know, we might say it starts off as a single room. In this case, we have a simple map of 2 rooms. We can say, well, we can manage that. But what would be nice now is if we can let the human enter the game, build out our map during the game, and then ask the game to convert itself to its new version of JSON. All right, so let's go ahead and add a command to our game that allows us to create a room in a certain direction. All right, right now we're gonna have to keep track of what our unique room IDs are, so we need to be a little careful right now. We might end up, if we wanna really have freewheel access to this, we might keep track of a number of rooms, and whenever we create a new room, it goes ahead and generates a room ID for us or something like that. You know, we're not going to go too deep into this map builder, but for right now, the idea would be we can kind of draw out our map on a piece of paper like we've done up here at some point. Here's our map. And we went ahead and labeled all the rooms, so we know what the rooms are called. So as long as a human being can do this, you know, right now our map has room 1 and room 2. So now if I'm in room 2, I want to create a room to the north called room 3. If I'm in room 3, I want to create a room to the west called room 4, and a room to the east called room 5, and a room to the north called room 6. And we should have the return trip there too. So we should have the return direction. So when I create my room to the north to R3, it should also have the return coming back to the south, since we're creating 2-way doors between all these guys. So we'll go ahead and, because this guy needs to have a destination to room 3, but this guy should have a destination to room 2. All right, so we need to read in that information. So let's go ahead and start writing that. Any questions where we are right now? We followed what we've done so far today? I'm going to take that as the yes. Blur it out if you have questions. So we're going to go ahead and add a command in here. We'll put it right here near the top. We'll say elif command is equal to create then it's going to give us a little quiz, start asking us some questions. So we're going to be creating a new room. So we'll say print create room. It's going to be super high definition graphics here. All right, so we're going to print create room. Now we're going to start asking them some questions. So we're going to have the room name, the room title. So title is equal to input, enter the new room.
Is this nice?
Go ahead. Question?
It's fine. I don't want to. Yes.
Oh, they're just unmuted. All right, so let me think about this. So we probably want to have a way of creating a room and creating a exit. Right now, let's just have a single create. The reason I say that is, what if we want to create an exit that goes from a certain room to an existing room? We're not going to be able to do that right now. We're going to only be able to build out our map. So for instance, let's say that I wanted to put a little, you know, like teleportation door to the east here in R1 that took me to R6, like a quick travel type thing. Right now, we're not going to support that because whenever we say create, we're creating a brand new room that's going to have a way to get there from the current room to that room. We'll add another command for creating an exit in the current room. That'll be a separate command. All right, so we're going to say create. It's going to take us into the creating room system. So enter a new room title. So we'll read in the title. Then we'll get the description. Enter the new room description. All right. Then we want to get the destination room ID. Input. Enter the destination room ID. All right. Now, finally, we want to have it tell us the direction to the new room and then the direction back to this room. So direction to new room is equal to enter the new exit direction. And then direction back to this room is equal to input, enter the direction leading back to this room. All right, so we'll get those pieces of information. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and build a room with the title, description, and the room ID. So we'll say the new room is equal to a room passing at the title, the description, and the room ID. This is the destination room ID, what we called it. So that will give us a room. Then we want to create an exit. We actually need to create two exits here. We're going to create an exit that we're going to add to this new room that leads back to us, and we're going to have an exit that we're going to add to the current room that leads to the new room. All right. So I have this room. So now we're going to say the exit leading to the new room is going to be an exit, and an exit takes a direction. So that is our direction to the new room. And then it also takes the room ID that we're leading to, which is going to be the destination room ID. All right, so there's our exit. This is the exit that we're going to be adding to the current room we're in. Then we're going to have an exit leading back to this room is going to be an exit And that's going to be the direction back to this room that we had them enter in. And the destination room ID is going to be the current room ID. So that is the room that the player is currently in. Remember that players keep track of their current room. Get to player here. So here's my player. A player knows about their current room. So I could ask the player to give us their current room, which is the room we're currently standing in. And I think we just named them the player. Yep, the player. So we'll say, I'll just go ahead and give myself a local variable here for the current room. Current room is equal to the player current room. So that's the room the player is currently standing in. So this will be the current room dot room ID. That's the room ID of the current room, will be the room ID that that exit leads back to. All right, so the exit leading back to this room will be in a certain direction back to the room ID of the current room. The exit leading to the new room will be in the direction to the destination room ID that we created. So we want to now add to the current room the exit leading to the new room, current room, add exit, the exit leading to the new room. Then we want to have the exit coming back to the room is going to be the new room. The new room dot add exit is going to be our exit leading to the old room. Exit leading back to this room. This guy. All right. So let me comment this a little bit. Current room the player is standing in. Create the new room. Create the exit leading to the new room. Add this exit to the new room. Create the exit leading back to this room. Add that exit to this room. Finally, we need to add the room that we just created to our map. So if I scroll up here, all right, I need to add an ability to my map to add a room. I could just directly add it to its list of rooms, but we want to keep track of the count for that list of rooms. Are we keeping track of count? We're not, but I'll go ahead and def add room to the map and this guy will take in a room, and he will say self dot collection of rooms dot append a room. So we're externally adding a room to this guy as opposed to our current thing that builds a room. Builds a room, creates a new room with the room dictionary and all that stuff, because that's coming from our JSON. All right, so now we're just directly adding a room object that we've already created. So finally, we'll say, add the new room to the map. The map, add room, the new room. Okay, so go ahead and run this. I'll go to the north. So now I'm in the north. Now, what we want to do here, so I'm in this room right here. I want to create this room right here. Another room to the north leading back to the south called R3. So we're going to create. So we want to enter the room title. We'll call this guy room 3. Enter the new room description. We'll also call that room 3. The destination room ID is R3. The new room exit direction, we want to lead to the north. The direction leading back to us will be to the south. So now, notice we are in a room called the dark room, and we have a new room to the north. And this is called room 3, south, blah, 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 all that stuff. I can still head back down south, north, north. I can create a room to the west. We'll call this guy room 4. Room 4, destination ID will be R4. To the west, coming back to the east. And there we go. Now we have a room to the west. All right. So now when I go ahead and type quit here, remember we get a dump of our map. So I should be able to copy that, go over to my map JSON, overwrite that guy with my new map. And when I run this again, I now have my updated map. All right, so I can finish creating this guy. So I can say, let's do the one to the east. Well, let's leave it like this for a second. So the next thing we want to be able to do is I'd like to automate this step of me having to go in here and when I hit quit, having to copy the current state of my map after I've done some building and pasting it into my JSON file. So what we can actually do is we can save the current state of the map to our JSON file as we're going. We can have a save command where we want to, up to this point, we've opened files for writing and for reading, but I want to experiment with this a little bit before we go too much further into this. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to, here, this is my object test. That's fine, we'll use object test as our example. So I want to open obj test.json. Just doing some normal file IO. Get rid of all this stuff. So I'm just going to open this file. It could be called JSON, could be called anything else, some text file. All right. And but when I open it, I want to open it for writing. Okay, so by default, a file is open read-only. So that's what it actually opens as by default. So we don't actually have to put the R there. But I want to open it for writing. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and say s.write hello world, s.close. So I ran this, and now we go over to object test. Does this guy get to refresh it? There we go. So notice I wrote something to that file, and that is now changed. Okay, so from my program here, I opened up object test for writing, and I wrote hello world to that file. But now I'm going to change this. I'm going to say we're going to write LOL this time. And what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and save and run this. So it wrote. Come back to this guy. Let's see how long it takes for it to, takes a second for it to realize it's changed. And notice that overwrote hello world with the LOL. Now that is the behavior that we want from our program. But what if you wanted to write to a file and have each thing you wrote be a new thing added to the file? What we can do is we can open that file for appending. So instead of a writing, we open it for appending. And now when I run this guy, I actually have to click for it to. Notice we got LOL and we got hello world. Now notice it put them all together because I didn't actually put a carriage return in there when I wrote. If I wanted to have a carriage return, I would have had to lead the thing off with a carriage return. I would have had to say \n add hello world, and now this will add another hello world to that file. So there's my hello world. All right. So keep in mind that when you open a file for writing, that here, we'll actually add it to the notes here. Writing to a file requires open. Well, let's see. So use the open function. That's open file name, and then this guy is the mode that we're opening for, where mode is read, write. You could also have read and write, so I could have RW if I want. A for append, X for create if you want to create a brand new file if it's not already created. Okay, but for right now we're looking at read, write, and append. So read, write, append. When writing to a file that was opened for write only, the entire file is overwritten. Appending to a file preserves what was already there. All right, now I'm gonna do one more thing here to show you something. My guess is it will work regardless. Some older languages, if you don't close the file, because the way files work on an operating system is it reads it in from the hard drive and loads it into memory. And only when that file gets closed does it actually write it from memory back to the hard drive. All right, so good programming practice would say any file that you open, you should also close. My guess is that Python has a convenience built into it where it automatically closes all your files if you haven't, because I bet you if I remove that close, and I'll go ahead and put an extra woot at the end of the file. In an older language like C, this would not actually modify the file because I forgot to close it. And therefore the file, while I did change it in memory, I appended to it in memory, it never actually got written back to disk. In Python, I suspect this will still work even though it's poor programming practice. So let's find out. So I ran it. We'll go and test this guy. It looks like it did not work. Good for Python. Yeah, he did not change. So by me not putting the close there, it did not actually write it back to disk, which is correct. That's the way it should work. And that's the way most older languages work. I just assumed Python would. Python seems to target beginning programmers, so it kind of lets you get by with whatever. So that's impressive. So I'll run that guy again. Now I should have the woot in there. And there's my woot. Okay. Questions about any of that stuff? So here, I'll add a little note. Make sure to close the file if you want your changes to be written to disk. So now we have a map that we can go and build out in its entirety by just walking through and saying create new rooms. Poof, 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 poof. We don't have to write it by hand in JSON. And for at least for right now, we can just copy the output of this guy into our JSON file. Next class, we'll add a little save button where we can just say save, and it'll just go ahead and overwrite the file with the current state of the map. And then we won't have to do any copying and pasting. It'll only take another 2 minutes or something like that. All right, questions, comments, concerns, bribes? I will post this current code up to Slack. And as promised, no homework over the weekend. I would have given you homework for today, but we were at a weird stopping point, so it is what it is. So I will see everybody on Monday. One reminder, if you haven't marked your calendar, remember I did post on that next week is senior seminar presentations. It's next Wednesday and, no, next Tuesday and Wednesday. Night from 6 p.m. till I think 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 5th and Wednesday the 6th. So these are our seniors giving their final presentations. It'll be here in this normal classroom. I strongly encourage you to attend some or all of those if you can make some time and support your fellow classmates when, you know, they're not going to have the big concert hall that we usually have, and people come in and, so they have their parents and stuff there. So try to give them a good audience. So if you can mark your calendar for 6 p.m. next Tuesday, 6 p.m. next Wednesday in the normal classroom, I think that would be a nice thing to do. I will see everybody on Monday. It is Friday, right?